Alright, so let's talk about UFC from the other night. I used to watch UFC a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I only watch it from time to time now. Live, anyway. I will watch some fights after the event that come up, and I just want to hear if the fights were good or not, and then I'll go out of my way to watch them, right? Because number one, I can't stay up on a Saturday that late at night watching that. The main events sometimes start at like midnight, and I don't want to watch that if the fight's going to be boring, okay? Before, it used to be worth it. When I was in high school and I used to watch UFC with my friends, the cards were always stacked because there were less events. So less events with a finite amount of fighters, you always have to put on good events, right? Now I understand the sport grows, there's more events, there's more fighters, and the cards get tiny bit diluted, but then every once in a while there are really good cards that are top heavy, so on and so forth, okay? So let's look at the fight that happened the other night at UFC 319. Now, I know like the top guys of some weight classes, so I'll recognize some names, but I'm not going to pretend like I know everyone. When I was younger, I knew almost everyone. I knew like the top 10 of every weight class. That's another thing. There was less weight classes, so there's going to be less cards. But now, so this fight was, I don't know if I'm saying this right, Khamzat Chimaev, who was the challenger, and Dricus du Plessis, who was the champion of middleweight. Now, I watched that whole fight. In my honest opinion, that fight was boring. Now, here's the problem. A lot of people are like, oh, well, if you think that fight was boring, you should watch something else. You should stick to boxing. However, I will admit that fight was boring, but that fight was a 5-round mollywhopping by the challenger. It was also one of the most dominating performances I've ever seen. The champion had no response for anything that the challenger had. And the problem is, and why I'm bringing this up, is so many people are like, oh, if you thought that fight was boring, you're a casual. And it's like, okay, and casual fans are what make the sport. The die-hard fan, or sports in general, the die-hard fans are not who the sport is ever appealing to, in my honest opinion. They're always looking to see what demographic they can attract to get money. Look at the NFL. Look at Taylor Swift. Apparently, I read something like Taylor Swift generated $400 million in terms of just jersey sales and more women watching the sport. You think guys give a shit about Taylor Swift in the NFL? No. So a casual is not the insult these people think it is. It's like this holier than thou attitude that because I know the sport better than you, your opinion doesn't matter. If I paid to watch that event and I wasn't entertained by it, that word is called boring. Boring. That's what it was. It was a boring fight. Oh, but you just don't understand how dominant of a win that was. No, I understand that as well. It was one of the most one-sided fights I've ever seen. But when 2 out of the 5 rounds, or maybe 3 out of the 5 rounds, is Chimaev on top in the crucifix position, just giving these the punches really didn't look that hard. Throw an elbow in there. Just do literally one thing different. It was the same punch over and over and over again. Now, when I hear people constantly bashing Chimaev's game plan, Dricus du Plessis, the champion, is not exactly innocent in this regard as well. It looked like he had nothing for any takedown. Didn't look like he was sprawling. It didn't look like he had any answer for that. And then when he was on the ground, it looked like he was just willingly staying in the crucifix position, or no matter what was on the floor. Like when he had his back up against the cage, you might as well fall to your back. Try something different. It just looked like he was trying to do anything to just stall. But when you're getting your ass kicked, stalling is not exactly a good decision, in my opinion. Then near the end of the fight, he went for these Hail Mary submissions that would have made me shit myself if they actually got latched onto, but they really didn't. They were in for like a second and a half, and then they popped right off. So what I don't like is this attitude where calling someone a casual is like an insult. Once again, you're bickering over people who don't even know you exist. It's the same thing of celebrity worship, where someone says, I don't like this music or this artist, and you get all offended because you're telling that other person they can't appreciate real music. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever. It's like everyone is it's like virtue signaling in a sense. Everyone is trying to show how much of a better person they are than someone else in this regard by saying how much more they know about the sport, or the last example I used, how much more they know about that genre of music or music in general. Another great example is I used to be a very, very intense viewer of the NFL and of football. I coached football for 9 years, and I barely watch football anymore because I don't like the game it has evolved into. But they're making more money than ever, and that at the end of the day, they're an entertainment business, and that's what they are supposed to do, is to make money via entertainment. I am not entertained by their product anymore, so I do not give them money in terms of subscriptions or viewership. That's simply how it works. Telling someone that the fight was boring and then other people are like criticizing that you shouldn't be watching this sport because you don't know how to appreciate it, why would you ever want to turn away fans from the product you love? If the product you love and love to watch doesn't have fans, you don't have a product to watch anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, the attitude towards that fight is so weird, and I don't think there's ever been a fight like that. For example, when I was younger, I really didn't like some of George St. Pierre's fights just because I knew that his style is one that he's going to grind you out for 5 rounds, he's going to take you down, he's going to beat you up. They were very, very, very dominant fights, and that's their job, to dominate and to win. But when all of those fights were exactly the same, then it's a little bit boring to watch. I remember when I was younger, it was the UFC event where I think he fought Dan Hardy. I went around the bar, I bet someone $100 before the fight even started, I think it was before the card even started, that George St. Pierre would win by a 5-round decision. And I told the guy, any other outcome, if Dan Hardy wins, you win. If George St. Pierre wins by knockout or submission, you win. Just because George St. Pierre didn't finish a guy for 5 years. So in that regard, his fights weren't, let's say, boring. His fights were very predictable. And I ended up winning the bet. So you're allowed to criticize a sport as a consumer. Just like if you were to go to a restaurant and order food, even if it's from the best restaurant in the world, if you did not like it, then you are the paying customer. It's not that you don't know how to appreciate food, you just didn't like it. And if I'm the person at the table ordering food, I should get something that I enjoy. And if I did not like it, I am okay and well within my right to criticize. It's not saying the chef is bad. It's not saying the restaurant is bad. What I ordered was not up to my standard. Now let's bring it back to the fight. That fight was hyped up so much on social media, Instagram, YouTube. It was hyped. It was supposed to be a really good fight. And in the back of my head, I said, I hope it doesn't go the way I was expecting, where Chimaev is able to just take him down, use his grappling, because his grappling is just top notch, and Dricus had no answer for it. That's what I was hoping wasn't happening, and that's exactly what happened. If Chimaev then choked him out in rounds 4 or 5, we're not talking about this fight being boring at all, or at least I'm not. But it's the fact that it was kind of, when the fight was in one position, that's how it was the rest of the round. And I'm not saying either fighter is at fault for that. They both kind of are, maybe, but it's the fighter's job to try and win. And at the end of the day, it looked like Chimaev was trying to win. Didn't look like he was trying to end the fight, but Dricus sure as hell didn't look like he was trying to win. So just this dumb argument that if you don't have the same opinion as me, or if it's not at a level that I perceive mine to be, then you're a casual sports fan, makes no sense. Casual sports fans are pretty much what bring in most of the money. All the changes sports make to go mainstream, you're not hitting billions of hardcore sports fans. Most of those are going to be casual. So that's just my thoughts on those today, ladies and gentlemen. If you like this video, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And as always, class is dismissed.